Good afternoon, my name is Ola Tovanma and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. Today is day 481 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian occupiers, and I traditionally want to thank all the mass media who tell the world the truth about this war. In brief, our schedule for today is as follows. At 1 o'clock we will be talking about the situation in Kherson region, and joining us online will be Fedir Venislavskyi, first deputy head of Kherson Regional Council. At 15:30 we will be talking about the situation in Kharkiv region, and joining us online will be Oleksiy Negubov, the military governor of Kharkiv region. And joining us right now is Fedir Venislavskyi, People's Deputy of Ukraine, member of the Parliamentary Committee on National Security, Defense and Intelligence, representative of the President of Ukraine in the Parliament of Ukraine. Good afternoon, Mr. Fedir. Good afternoon, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Mr. Fedir, today we celebrate the International Day of Fight Against Sexual Violence in War Conditions. We document such facts starting from 2014, and with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, such facts grew in scale unprecedentedly. So now we understand that one of the biggest demands in the society is the punishment for those who were committing crimes in our land, committing crimes against our people. So the first question to you is, what can we do in this regard, and what was already done? Well, obviously during the war such terrible crimes, they grow in scale significantly, and in the view of the motivation that we've heard from the intercepted communication by the Central Intelligence Department, when they say they hate us and they try to destroy us, eradicate us as the nation, our dignity. So for Ukraine it's really a big sorrow, and if, as you mentioned properly, for the people of Ukraine and for the people of the world, it's necessary to understand that no scum, nobody who committed the violence, the crimes against humanity, crimes against Ukrainian citizens, crimes of the sexual nature, they will not be left unpunished. In my opinion, the punishment is something that should come for every criminal, no matter where he is. They should realize that they should be brought to liability no matter where they are. Talking about the legal analysis of the situation, there is a number of key moments here. First of them is that since 2014, we've been seeing a lot of manipulations by the facts used by Russian Federation, including in the court institutions, when they try to pose Ukraine as somebody who is committing some illegal actions. Just like last week, there was a consideration of MH17 case and the terroristic nature of Russian war that they were waging since 2014. Their arguments in The Hague, and the Russian delegation were demonstrating their mastership in manipulation, in distortion of the facts. So for us, it's yet another important lesson that we have to use during this full-scale war, and this is what we use from the first months of the war. What we're talking about here, we're saying that nobody who commits any illegal actions and activities, nobody avoids punishment. Their activities should be documented. We should be able to get the most extensive facts base possible, so that in national and international courts we could use all those evidences to bring them to liability within legal procedures. And in this regard, I would like to say that upon the urge of the President of Ukraine, many international experts, criminalists have come to Ukraine, who in coordination with our specialists gather, document and analyze all the evidences of illegal activities that will be laid as fundamental for the cases brought to the courts on the international level. So now for all of our law enforcement agencies, the main task is the most thorough documenting of all the traces of illegal activities, which will be used as evidence to convict the scum in the crimes they've committed. So no one will be avoiding those crimes, including for the crimes of sexual nature, which are numerous in Ukraine. Everybody will have their punishment inevitable. Mr. Fedir, the special question is about the special tribunal for Putin. Do we have understanding when it will start functioning and what it will be looking like? Well, there are no big news. In this regard, what we were talking about from the very first days of the war, there are different aspects being considered for the operation of the special tribunal, but for us it's important that there are discussions, well, there are no discussions anymore about the existence of such tribunal. We have the support of all the civilized countries of the world, all of our partners. They have consensus that Putin and his closer ones should be brought to liability for the aggressive war they're waging in Ukraine. So that's no issue anymore. What is still discussed is the format of this future tribunal. And for Ukraine, it was demonstrated numerous times. And the representatives of the office of the President and office of the Prosecutor General see as acceptable something that would be looking like Nuremberg Tribunal, a specialized tribunal that would investigate the crimes of aggression, because International Criminal Court as a separate crime of aggression in this case cannot consider such issue, because their jurisdiction cannot spread over Russia, because Ukraine has not ratified the Roman Statute. Meanwhile, we have implemented the special law which makes us covered with the Roman Statute. So bringing Putin's clique to liability for the crimes of aggression should be considered by the special tribunal, which is about to be established. As to the war criminals who were given criminal orders, they can be judged by the International Criminal Court along with the National Courts of Ukraine and this special tribunal we're working on now. There is a fruitful discussion underway as to the format of the tribunal. For us, the most acceptable is the special tribunal without any hybrid formats that some of our partners insist on. But we're talking about using the legal system of Ukraine, and in this tribunal international judges should be taking part. But for Ukraine, more acceptable is the way that it's the special tribunal which acts according to the special procedures which would be established according to special agreement, and the office of the president in coordination of the office of the prosecutor general submitted all of our proposals to our international partners. So now this meticulous informal activity is underway as to identification of our position regarding the format of this international tribunal, and we have the active instrument that can be used in practice. So in response to a question, I cannot say that it will be happening very shortly. It's quite optimistic, but we keep working quite actively to coordinate all those matters so that our negotiations result in this in something that would be of interest to us. So Mr. Fedir, I cannot help but asking about your forecast. When do you expect it to start operating? For the time being, we have the support of about 40, almost 40 countries, specifically 38 countries, which agreed on the establishment of the special tribunal, and now a part of those countries agrees that it should be a tribunal that would comply with the conditions, with the circumstances, just like Nuremberg Tribunal. And another part of our partners, they still insist on the hybrid form. As soon as we coordinate all the positions, all the negotiations positions, the process of establishment of such tribunal will not take a lot of time, because almost all the documents are already prepared. But I would say it's optimistic if this court starts working by the end of this year, but realistically saying, I think it would be happening somewhere next year. But something I would also like to pay your attention to is a parallel track is bringing to financial liability of their aggressor country for reimbursement of damage and losses, both material and intangible, because we have signals from many countries now who on the level of national legislation adopt laws on confiscation of the frozen assets, and they are channeling in favor of Ukraine. I think that it will be happening shortly, and within a couple of months we will be having some solid results. Another question very hot for us: the latest terroristic act committed by the Russians in the Kakhovka Dam. We've heard about the assessment of this act by many of our international partners. So talking about the investigation by International Criminal Court, has it started in this regard? Well, we know that Russian Federation did not admit the representatives of the international community to the territories under their control so that they could inspect the circumstances of detonation of Kakhovka Dam. We work, however, systemically on this issue. We have the data from our Central Intelligence Department and the Foreign Intelligence Service, and there are no single doubts that it was specifically Russian Federation who detonated the Kakhovka Dam, at least not in Ukraine. And now we continue providing those evidences to our partners to create a coalition and a common understanding that this is yet another act of terror, another act of genocide, and at big account, the detonation of Kakhovka Dam, as President said, can be compared to the application of the mass destruction weapon, because extensive territories were contaminated and we cannot even forecast the negative consequences it will have for the ecosystems and for the people, because in the flooded areas we detected a lot of detrimental substances, starting from petrol, oil and lubricants, and ending with the mass graves. So now it's a catastrophe of a big scale that Russia should be brought liable to in the court of United Nations and International Criminal Court, and in the future specialized tribunal too. So given this information noise that we have now, that was directed and prepared by the propagandists of the Russian Federation, who in fact within hours upon the detonation started posting these or those evidences that it was committed by Ukraine. So for us it's important to fully document all the circumstances, including telephone communication interceptions and satellite images that evidence that Russia was preparing to detonate the dam of Kakhovka HPP, and that the criminal and material and moral part of this crime are not left unpunished. Thank you very much for this information, Mr. Fedir. We have questions from the floor. Angelina Strashko, Ukrinform. Recently, Mr. Putin stated that the first part of nuclear warheads was recently delivered to Belarus. Do you know how true is this information? Thank you. Thank you for this question. During a meeting of our committee, we were hearing the representatives of intelligence community, but for the time being, we cannot confirm that now there are nuclear weapons deployed in Belarus. We know that the storages are prepared for nuclear weapons, but we don't have documented facts of handover of the nuclear weapons to Belarus. However, we consolidate all of our efforts to draw everyone's attention to the extraordinarily serious nature of this event that are declared by Putin and Lukashenko, but unfortunately for the time being, again, we don't have any documented fact about relocation of nuclear weapons to Belarus. Thank you very much for this broadcast, dear colleagues. I'm reminding you, joining us online was Fedir Venislavskyi, and our next broadcast will be at 1 o'clock. We'll be talking about situation in Kherson region. So thanks our armed forces, work together for a victory, and glory to Ukraine.